The shuttle bay doors hissed open, and Jason Kane stepped into what might become his tomb. The Zythari flagship stretched before him like a cathedral of black metal and crimson light. 50 warriors lined the corridor, each one 8 feet of scaled muscle and cold calculation. Their eyes tracked him like targeting systems. He'd memorized the diplomatic greeting 1,000 times during the 3-day journey. One phrase, 6 words in their language. It was supposed to mean, "I come seeking wisdom and accord." His mouth went dry as Queen Vahira emerged from the shadows at the corridor's end. She was magnificent and terrifying. 12 feet tall, crowned with bone ridges that curved like blades, her scales shifting between deep purple and black in the dim light. 4 arms crossed over a chest decorated with the scars of 100 battles. Behind her, the Zythari High Council stood in perfect formation, their silence heavier than any threat. This was it, humanity's last chance. 3 colonies burned, 2 fleets destroyed. The war had raged for 6 years, and Earth was losing. They'd sent Jason because he'd negotiated with the Kryn Collective, the Vosh Trade Union, even the notoriously difficult Pelzar Ascendancy. He knew alien psychology. He knew how to read the room. He knew exactly what to say. Jason opened his mouth, and his brain short-circuited. The formal greeting vanished. What came out instead was a phrase he'd used 1,000,000 times back on Earth, something casual he'd say to friends, completely inappropriate for this moment. "Well, this is awkward as hell." The words echoed through the corridor. Every Zythari warrior went rigid. Dams moved to weapons. The temperature seemed to drop 20 degrees. Jason's security detail. 2 Marines behind him shifted their weight but didn't reach for their sidearms. That would mean instant death. Queen Vahira's 4 eyes narrowed to slits. She took 1 step forward, then another. Her footsteps rang like hammers on an anvil. Jason couldn't move, couldn't breathe. She loomed over him, close enough that he could smell something like cinnamon and smoke. Her mandibles clicked slowly. One of her hands rose, claws extended. This was how he died. Humanity's great diplomat, executed for running his mouth. His mother had always said his casual attitude would get him killed someday. Looks like Mom was right. The Queen's face was inches from his now. He could see his reflection in her eyes, small and pathetic, and so very human. Then Queen Vahira laughed. It started as a low rumble in her chest and built into something that shook the deck plating. Her warriors stood frozen in shock. The High Council members exchanged glances that Jason couldn't read. The Queen's laughter continued for a full 10 seconds before she straightened and looked down at him with what might have been amusement. "You are the first diplomat in 30 years who has not buried truth under pretty words," she said, her voice like gravel and honey. Awkward. Yes, this is exactly what this is. She waved one hand and the warriors relaxed fractionally. "I like you, human. Council, leave us." The High Council didn't move immediately. One of them, an older Zythari with silver scales, stepped forward. "Your Majesty, protocol demands." Vahira's head snapped toward him so fast Jason heard her neck vertebrae crack. "I said leave." Her voice carried no anger, just absolute authority. The council filed out in silence. The warriors followed. Even Jason's Marines were escorted away, leaving him alone with the most powerful being in this sector of the galaxy. When the doors sealed, Vahira moved to a viewport showing the star field beyond. "Do you know why we are losing this war, Jason Kane?" He blinked at the casual use of his name. "I thought you were winning." She made a sound that might have been a chuckle. "We win battles. We lose something more important. My people are warriors, yes, but we are tired. 6 years of fighting an enemy who refuses to surrender, refuses to follow any predictable pattern. You humans fight like the universe itself has no rules." Vahira turned to face him fully. "Every species we have conquered understood honor, understood hierarchy, understood that when you are beaten you acknowledge it. But you lose a fleet and send 3 more. We destroy a colony and you fortify 10 others. You adapt, improvise, cheat, lie, and somehow survive." She leaned against the viewport. "I am tired, diplomat. My people are tired. But we cannot show weakness. If we propose peace, every rival empire will see it as surrender. Jason's mind raced. This was an opening, but a fragile one. What if neither side proposes it? What if we force it through action, not words? Vahira's eyes brightened with interest. Explain. He took a breath, the plan forming even as he spoke. Challenge me. Public combat. Your champion against Earth's representative. The loser's side accepts terms set by the winner. It's not a surrender. It's a contest of strength, which your people respect. The queen considered this, her claws tapping against her armored thigh. And when my champion tears you apart in seconds, your people will accept our terms? Jason smiled, and it wasn't entirely fake. Maybe. Or maybe I'll surprise you. Vahira studied him for a long moment, then nodded. Tomorrow, the arena. If you survive, we talk real peace. If you die, the war continues until one of us is dust. She moved toward the door, then paused. That slip of yours, human. That honesty. It may have just saved 1 billion lives. Or doomed them. We will see which. The arena was older than some of Earth's civilizations. Carved from a single asteroid, it could hold 50,000 Zythari. Every seat was filled. Jason stood in the center, wearing light armor the Zythari had provided. It wouldn't stop much, but it was better than nothing. Across from him stood Carvax, the Queen's chosen champion. He made the corridor warriors look small. Scars covered every inch of his scales. One eye was cybernetic, glowing red in the arena lights. He carried a plasma blade that hummed with barely contained energy. Jason had a standard combat knife and whatever was left of his sanity. Queen Vahira's voice boomed through the arena speakers. This human speaks of peace through strength. We shall test both. The crowd roared. Carvax began to circle. Jason knew the statistics. Average. Zythari warrior 3 times human strength, twice the speed, natural armor that could stop small arms fire. Carvax wasn't average. This wasn't a fight. It was an execution with ceremony. But Jason hadn't survived 4 years of diplomatic missions in war zones by playing fair. He'd survived by being unpredictable, by doing what no sane person would do. Techni. So when Carvax charged, Jason didn't dodge. He ran straight at him. The champion's blade swung in a perfect arc, exactly like the combat footage Jason had studied. He dropped and slid, the blade missing by inches, and drove his knife into Carvax's knee joint. The champion roared and backhanded him. Jason flew 15 feet and crashed into the arena wall. Pain exploded through his ribs. Definitely broken. He struggled to his feet as Carvax limped forward, furious now. Good. Angry fighters made mistakes. Jason grabbed a handful of arena sand and threw it at Carvax's face. The champion blocked it with one arm, exactly as expected, and Jason used that split second to dart behind him. The knife found another joint, this time in the hip. Carvax spun, faster than anything that size should move, and his fist caught Jason in the stomach. The world went white. Jason couldn't breathe, couldn't think. He was on his back, staring at the arena ceiling. Carvax stood over him, blade raised. This was it, but then Jason saw it. Champion's stance was wrong, favoring the injured leg, overcompensating with his upper body. One chance. Jason coughed, blood on his lips, and raised one hand. I yield. The crowd went silent. Carvax paused, confusion crossing his features. Even the queen leaned forward in her seat. Yielding was honorable in Zythari culture. It ended the fight. Carvax lowered his blade slightly, and Jason kicked him in his injured knee with everything he had left. Carvax went down, and Jason was on him, knife at his throat before the champion could recover. The arena erupted in chaos. Half the crowd screamed in outrage. The other half seemed shocked into silence. Jason pressed the blade just hard enough to draw a single drop of purple blood. Yield, he rasped. Carvax's eyes blazed with fury, but he saw the blade, saw the position, saw that somehow this small broken human had won. I yield, he growled. Jason rolled off him and collapsed, every part of his body screaming. Guards rushed the arena floor. He expected to be torn apart. Instead, Queen Vahira was there, standing over him. The noise of the crowd faded as she raised one hand for silence. You cheated, she said, her voice carrying to every corner of the arena. Jason managed a weak smile through the blood. I survived. That's the human way. Vahira stared at him for a long moment, then threw her head back and laughed. That same earth-shaking sound from before. Yes! This is why we cannot defeat you! You have no honor, no rules, no shame, and somehow that makes you more dangerous than any warrior race. She turned to the crowd. The human won through deception, through tactics we would never use, through refusal to accept any limitation. This is their strength. The arena was silent now, thousands of eyes on their queen. We have fought them as if they were Zythari, as if they understood honor and hierarchy and proper warfare. They do not. They will never surrender because surrender is not in their nature. They will fight until the stars go cold, using every dirty trick, every improvised weapon, every rule we have never thought to write because we assumed all thinking beings would follow them. Vahira extended one hand to Jason, helping him to his feet. This human showed me something today. He showed me that respect does not require similarity, that strength takes many forms, that sometimes the most honorable thing is to admit when fighting serves no purpose. She turned to her council, assembled in the royal box. Prepare the peace accords. Full terms, equal standing, mutual defense pact. Humanity has earned the right to stand beside the Zythari Empire, not beneath it. The crowd's response was mixed, but it didn't matter. The queen had spoken. Jason swayed on his feet, and Vahira steadied him with surprising gentleness. Your honesty in the corridor, your tactics in the arena. These are the same thing, yes? Pure survival, stripped of pretense. He nodded, not trusting his voice. She leaned close, her voice low enough that only he could hear. I will tell you a secret, Diplomat. I am terrified of your species, not because you are strong, but because you are chaos. You will either save this galaxy from itself or burn it to ash, and I cannot predict which. She straightened. But today you saved billions of lives on both sides. Remember that when the chaos comes. 3 days later, Jason stood in the shuttle bay again, this time preparing to leave. The peace treaty was signed. The war was over. Queen Vahira approached as he prepared to board. Your people will tell stories of this day, she said. So will mine. Jason smiled, ribs still aching despite the Zythari medical treatment. What will yours say? She considered. That humanity taught us a lesson we had forgotten, that survival matters more than honor. That sometimes the greatest strength is knowing when to stop fighting. She extended one hand and Jason shook it, human custom meeting alien gesture. And yours? He thought of Earth, of the colonies, of everyone who died in 6 years of war. That sometimes the best diplomacy is just being yourself, even when yourself is kind of a mess. Vahira's mandibles clicked, and what he'd learned was amusement. Especially then, Jason Kane, especially then. The shuttle lifted off, and through the viewport Jason watched the Zythari flagship grow smaller. Humanity had stumbled into peace through accident, honesty, and a willingness to fight dirty when needed. It wasn't the story the history books would want, but it was the truth. And somehow, with an alien queen who valued that truth more than pretty lies, it had been enough. The stars stretched ahead, full of species who played by rules humanity had never learned. Maybe Vahira was right. Maybe they'd save the galaxy. Maybe they'd doom it. But one thing was certain. They'd do it their way, chaos and all, and no one would ever forget it.